Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are doing good. So a couple of weeks ago, I tested the image of the Nokia 9 Pureview and the Sony Xperia Pro I. I took some time to learn how to use the Sony Xperia Pro I so that a proper comparison can be done between both these very unique devices. There are so many camera-centric devices out there, but there's none like both of these devices, because both of these devices are meant to capture images which are true to life, especially the raw capture part of it, and both of these devices are meant to compete in the realms of DSLR cameras or mirrorless cameras out there. Now, despite being years apart, the Nokia 9 Pureview and the Sony Xperia Pro I has some similarities. Now, both of these are photo-centric devices. They are actually flagship devices of their time. And if you can see, ironically, you do have the Zeiss branding on the Nokia 9 Pureview, which is missing from the newer generation of HMD made Nokia devices, and it's also available on the Sony device here. So Sony and Nokia have been using Zeiss optics for a very long time. And on the Xperia Pro I, it takes it a step further with the Zeiss coating, and this is something that is quite interesting because the Zeiss coating is supposed to reduce the flare effect from direct sunlight and whatnot, but you don't actually get that sort of flare effect on the Nokia 9 Pureview. Probably this is the advantage of the 5 penta lenses, which are all arranged in a very peculiar angle. Now, apart from the Zeiss lenses and the Zeiss optics here, do take note that the lenses on the optics from the Xperia Pro I are actually made of glass instead of plastic. So on the Nokia 9 Pureview, it has 5 cameras, all at 12 megapixel, and also a time of flight sensor. On the Xperia Pro I, you've got a primary 24mm sensor, and coupled with the 16mm ultra wide and a 50mm telephoto, all at 12 megapixel resolution as well. It also has a time of flight sensor. Now, what's interesting here is this primary camera, the 24mm camera here, which is actually housing the 1-inch sensor from the RX 7th generation camera. This is a dedicated camera sensor, a CMOS sensor instead of an IMX sensor, and it is actually a 20 megapixel camera sensor, which is only a part of it being used, so the output is at 12 megapixel only. Now, in terms of flagship grade, both of these are flagship devices, and the Sony Xperia Pro I here is running on Snapdragon 888 processor. The Nokia 9 Pureview runs on the Snapdragon 835 processor, and this has 6GB of RAM, this has 12GB of RAM, this has 128GB of memories, which is not expandable. The Xperia Pro I has 512GB of storage, which is expandable with 12GB of RAM. So more powerful, more recent processor, but the objectives are quite similar. Now, when it comes to the design itself, you can see that the Nokia 9 Pureview looks like any other device back in the day with the 16:9 aspect ratio. Sony Xperia devices have always been a taller device with the 21:9 aspect ratio, and the design itself tells you that this is indeed a camera-centric device with all these beautiful ridges for better hand grip. You even got a slot for your lanyard. You got a dedicated 2-stage camera button with a dedicated video button, which is unfortunately sad to see because it used to be available on the Pureview devices before. Now, all in all, both these devices are supposed to give you a DSLR-like experience in a compact form factor. So this is what I'm going to try in my upcoming comparison to see how far are they different from each other. Now, it's also said that Nokia is missing this 3.5mm head jack, which will otherwise give it the capability to use additional microphones for recording, but you do have also audio recording, which is Nokia is actually famous for. Now, you might be wondering why my Nokia 9 Pureview is connected to a charger. That is because of the working hypothesis that a charged Nokia 9 Pureview would not have a camera crash, especially when you're doing a review to show something on. So with that said, let's explore the camera interface on the Nokia 9 Pureview. So one thing that I really like about the Nokia 9 Pureview is the ability of it to focus to a very close subject, which is not really easy for devices like the Xperia Pro I, especially if you're using in auto mode. So you need a manual control to achieve that, but on the Nokia 9 Pureview, you don't have such an issue. Now, the interface is quite similar to previous generations of Nokia device. You've got one which is for auto mode, and you can also click one for the pro mode. So the Nokia 9 Pureview is actually doing a lot with the Snapdragon 835. But it is also helped with the co-processing chip, which is from the Light company. So the Light co-processing chip handles the image fusion, which also is quite similar to the Sony Xperia Pro I, which uses a Bionic X chip to process the images. So you do have the ability to capture images in both RAW and JPEG with the Nokia and Pureview. You can have the option to have the depth map on or off, and you do have a redundant bokeh mode, because if the depth map is on, you get pretty much a similar effect. So capturing images in the Nokia and Pureview is pretty much straightforward. So just for this part of the review, I'm just going to show you here, and as you can see, with the power on, it has yet to crash despite being on for quite some time. And I believe that most of the Nokia 9 Pureview users out there would have experienced some form of crash. So the thing is, this Snapdragon 835 with 6GB of RAM with input from all 5 cameras, that means there's going to be a delay in the processing part of the image, but that doesn't mean you can't take another image, especially if you connect it to a power source. There you go, you take another image and nothing much is going to happen to the device as long as the power is on, which means the theory or the working hypothesis is true. Now with that said, with the Xperia Pro I, you can launch the camera with a single click of a button, and you can go to the basic mode or the auto mode. So the basic mode is what most of us would be comfortable using, so that gives you the access to the other 2 lenses with a single click. And you also can, with the click of a button, switch the size of the iris here. This is at f4.0, click it to f2.0 and it opens up wide. So you can do all that simple task here. But going to the auto mode, then you have a very similar layout, similar to your mirrorless Sony Alpha series. So this gives you really wonderful fine control over your camera here. Now what's interesting here is that the Sony Xperia Pro I is also quite similar to the mirrorless Alpha series. The autofocus is really good. You got eye autofocus, which is also able to detect animals, and at the same time about 90% of the viewfinder here has the autofocus running, so you can really capture sharp images no matter where it is. So just a similar experience, just to show you how fast it is. There we go, that's it. And you might be wondering why the delay. That is because I have the burst mode on, so this device can actually take a ridiculous 20 frames per second shot, and that's where the 512GB of storage goes. But otherwise, for a single shot, that is how it is. And you can see pretty much really natural looking image, really cool. You don't see much of noise there. The color reproduction is actually quite good, and that's one thing to be said about the screen. It's because the screen on the Xperia Pro I is fine-tuned to reproduce the actual colors that you actually get from the final image. Now this is just a random comparison, because a proper comparison is due, but just to show you how the output is. And as expected, the output from the Nokia device usually has higher contrast and a bit more sharpening, and that is expected from the Nokia and Pureview. But the highlight of the device has to be from its raw capture. So I'm going to see whether there's a raw capture here. So just to show you a glimpse of what we can expect, I'm just going to shoot it in raw and share with you here. So do take note that you can save the device in any format that you want, JPEG, RAW plus JPEG, and there we go, RAW plus JPEG. And I'm just going to shoot this. There we go, a single click. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the Nokia and Pureview. Slightly messy doing all this single-handedly. There we go, and about the same distance, and there we go. So while we are there waiting for the Nokia 9 to finish processing the image, let's just go into the final controls that you have. You can go all the way and be crazy with the control, and you get exposure time up to 30 seconds. You've got your ISO all the way until 12,800. These are ridiculous amounts of values that we have here. And on the Nokia 9 Pureview, for example, if you were to see the amount of control that you get, so if you go to the Pro mode, which you can slide if you want, or just click it at the Pro mode here and then you slide it over, you can see that the exposure time is only until 10 seconds. The ISO is under 6400. You don't have options for manual focus. So this is one of the bugs that a lot of people has been facing. Once you actually set the values, and if you tap to focus, the preset values, they just go off. So it's hard to focus with in the Pro mode on the Nokia 9 Pureview, but you get to have that on the Xperia Pro I. And let's just see the capture that we have, especially the JPEG output. And I'm just going to show you raw here. There we go. And let's go here. So these are two devices, and you can see here that this is 38 mega. I hope you can see this. This is at 38 megabytes for the raw capture here, and on the Xperia Pro I, the raw capture is at 24 megabytes. In terms of the details here, you can see how far superior is the one captured by the Nokia 9 Pureview, but of course the higher contrast is something that is you have to get used with the Nokia 9 Pureview. You can of course tune it to your liking, and this is one of the benefit of having a 1-inch sensor. You do have brighter image, more details, less noise and whatnot. But let's just boost up the brightness of the Nokia 9 screen here, so it's quite similar. Now you can see that in terms of noise here, and it's quite amazing that there's actually noise available on the Xperia Pro I. You don't see noise on the Nokia 9 Pureview. So this is just a brief demonstration into how these two cameras are, and I do believe that the owners of Nokia 9 Pureview, especially those who have been staying with the device for a long time, would know that the raw capture is really amazing, the output is really good, and you do have sharper details and less noise. There's something magical about these 5 lenses that has been arranged on the rear. And the next comparison is going to be a direct comparison with the image output of the primary sensors of both these devices. So that is coming up. So if you want to see something interesting, do stay tuned and do subscribe to my channel. You can always comment in the comment section below, or reach me out in Twitter where I'm more readily available. So till my next video, I hope that this is somewhat interesting today. I hope to see you in my next one. Do take care.